This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today's returning guest is Joanne Mitchell. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
We are here to talk about your debut feature film, Broken Bird, that you've directed. Do you want to give, for those people that are in UK that might be able to get access to it, do you want to entice them by giving a brief synopsis to what Broken Bird is about?
Yeah, so Broken Bird is a story about a woman who, as a child, suffered a tragic loss whereby she lost her family. Mm-hmm. And basically, since that moment, as a young girl, the lights went out and she has been trying to fill that void, that dark chasm within her, on a quest for her own love. But I suppose it's just not in a conventional way to find love. And she also uses the mediums of poetry and taxidermy to explore her sort of creative juices in that sense, to inspire her to create that love, what's missing in her life.
Indeed. CYBIL is indeed a troubled soul.
She is a troubled soul, yes.
Now, before we get into talking about the process of filmmaking, it'd be remiss of me to not talk about the world premiere, because ordinarily I would have probably interviewed you back in August at Frightfest, but it was the first year I was away, so I wasn't able to cover Frightfest this year. So let me know, what was it like to have your world premiere at Frightfest?
Oh my God, it was amazing. It's an amazing. It's amazing to have your film at Frightfest. Full stop.
Yeah.
So when the guys who've always been incredibly supportive said, "Would you like to be the opening film?" I was kind of like, what? Oh my God, that didn't sort of enter into my mind at all. And I almost said no, because I just thought, oh no, I don't know if it's an opening film. It's quite a quiet film. It's not sort of all blood splats and gore. It's like you would expect for an opening film. So I wasn't sure at first. And then I had to have a little word with myself. And I said, Joe, what are you doing? Just think about this. They've just offered you to be the opening film and you're talking yourself out of it. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, and of course, then I went, yes, I would love to be. Thank you. And it was incredible because it was at the, is it the Odeon?
It's the Odeon in Leicester Square. Yeah.
It's the Odeon Leicester Square, isn't it?
They moved venues this year.
Yes, they moved. And it was incredible. I mean, that theatre sat, I think it was over 800 people and it was sold out. So, yeah, it was incredible. And little old me went on the stage at the beginning and spoke to Alan, and I looked like some sort of miniature doll on there in this huge kind of chasm. And it was just incredible. I mean, I think it was probably a real highlight of my life. And, having your first feature premiered as the opening film of Frightfest is just slightly insane, and I still haven't quite got my head around it. And really, and also because they chose a film by a female filmmaker, female-led, and also bookended with the substance. I mean, what's not to love?
Indeed.
Because that film is just incredible. So I was kind of like, wow. Very humbling, and it was great. It was really great.
I'm glad I got to ask you about that.
Thank you.
Now then, it's Broken Bird is based on a story by Tracy Shields, and a story that you then developed and then developed with Dominic, your partner, to be a screenplay. So do you want to talk about what the storytelling challenges were taking? I mean, was it a feature book or was it a short story?
So it was a short film. It was based on the short film CYBIL that
Okay.
So I directed that as a short film.
Okay.
And, a good few years ago now, and probably about a year or two before we actually made the short film, we got an email from Tracy, who we'd worked with before. She was in our film, Bait.
Yeah.
And great actress. And she said, I've got this idea for a short film in this email. So we thought, oh my God, this is really interesting. And Dom was really busy. And I'd always fancied directing. I really wanted to, but I just thought, I'm not the director. I'm not the director.
Uh-huh.
I kind of talking myself out of it. But then I thought, why not? Give it a go, Joe. And Dom was really supportive, and he said, yeah, go for it. You should do it, because if you can simplify it, make it. Anyway, wrote it into a script. And we shot it in 2.5 days. And it was great. And it went to Frightfest, funnily enough, and all over the world, actually. It did quite well. And then from then, I always felt that there was definitely more to the character of CYBIL, because there's only so much you can say in sort of 5 pages of a short film script, 15 minutes, whatever it was. So I really was intrigued as to what made this character tick, why she did the terrible, heinous things that she does. Because, I can't believe that she was inherently evil. And so I needed to give her that sort of background and backstory, for want of a better word. And so she had more of a journey to go to, and why she did these things. And also all the satellite characters surrounding her, Mr. Thomas, Emma, Mark, they all had to have their own journey as well. But they were all linked by, I suppose, grief is what they're all linked by. They're all suffering in their own way. And at some point, they all come into contact, mainly with CYBIL, and she changes their life on one level or another completely. Yes. So that's how we did it. I mean, obviously, when we first had when we were first writing the story of it, and we did a few drafts of the script, and Tracy was part of that as well at the beginning. We got to it. I wrote a few drafts, and Dominic did some, and then it was about 45, 50 pages. So it wasn't really finished. And you know what it's like. It was a passion project in lots of ways, but we didn't have the money, and then you'd get another job and you'd have to go to that. So it gets put on the back burner. It was just one of those. And then out of the blue, I got an email from a producer friend in Los Angeles, and it was totally weird. This sort of thing never happens to me. And he basically said, well, me and these other exec producers have got a slate of 6 films, all female-led, and we're looking for a genre film. Do you have any scripts? And I went, wow, actually.
Funny you should ask.
I've got a few. Yeah, well, why don't I send you one and see what you think? And if you don't like it, I'll send you another one. Anyway, so I sent him, the working title was CYBIL at that time. So I sent him that, and I said, look, it's not finished. It needs work. But if you like the premise and you like the characters, then let's talk further. And lo and behold, they all read it and they all liked it. They thought it had legs. So we started, myself and Dominic and them, really started working on it. And so then fast forward I should actually say at this point, when nothing was signed, but they wanted to see if we could develop it with them and, how they could work with us.
I've been there.
But I sort of said to them, if you want it, please, you can have it on one condition. I don't know how I was so bold. I said, you can have it, but I have to direct it. And he said, oh, okay, well, let me speak to them again.
Yeah.
Anyway, after many conversations, they accepted, because I sent them a couple of my short films, and I produced a few other movies with Dom and stuff. So so they knew I had a history of making films. And I kind of know what I'm doing, kind of. So that's what happened. And then sort of it was touch and go, didn't know what was happening. And it was all going to be filmed in Serbia, in Belgrade.
Yeah.
And I'd have to be out there for at least 3 months to film. So I got a call 3 weeks before, and they said, it's totally greenlit. We're booking your flights, we've got your accommodation, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, I had been speaking to a producer they'd put me in touch with, who was the main producer on my film, not on any of the other films, called Zoe Stewart, who is a wonderful UK producer who lives in Los Angeles. And so between me and her, we were working together, and then we just got the call and we just went out. And so we made the film in Belgrade. This was going to be my last question, but you've given me a segue there. So your film is set in England, but you don't shoot it in England. What were the challenges certainly for the exterior shots when shooting in a foreign country? Yeah, I mean, that was one of the main things that really terrified me, because I'd never been to Serbia. I never met anyone from Serbia, and all I was sort of seeing, when I Googled it, was kind of these brutalist architectural buildings, and I thought, oh my God, this does not look like the north of England. What am I going to do? But they assured me that they had an amazing location team. I was thinking, well, you might have a great location team, but what happens if you don't have the locations? Anyway, I went because that was the deal. I was going to go, and I was excited to go. And it was a fear of mine. But when I got there, of course, yes, there's all that kind of architecture. But actually, we had a really great location team, and they showed me around all these different places. We went to a lot of places to try and find what my vision was. And we did. I mean, obviously, within the original script is like an old English pub and all these kind of things. That was never going to happen. It was just not going to happen. So we made it into sort of like a poetry, pretentious poetry bar. But I kind of saw some of the stonework on the exterior of that, and that looked quite Hebden Bridgey, which was quite useful. So I could sort of, I could use that. And obviously we went all around the outskirts of Belgrade to try and find the countryside without certain, because they have like terracotta tiles everywhere.
Right.
Roofs. So that was another sort of this looks very European. Whereas in North, as you know, it's all slate and grey and stone. So we managed to find it, and even the museum. It was great. It was a museum in the Kalemegdan Park in Belgrade, actually in the centre of Belgrade. So I was.
Well, if it's, I mean, you don't need to say it just for me, but I mean, I was none the wiser until the credits rolled. It was only when the credits rolled that I was like, bloody hell, it wasn't shot here.
Yes, job done.
Indeed. Now, Rebecca Calder plays the lead role, which is obviously a change from the short. So, can you recall a moment where she made a decision as an actor in terms of what CYBIL does that took the character that was on the page to exactly where you hoped she might go on screen?
I auditioned a lot of actors, some lovely, amazing actors, actually. And it was all by Zoom. I couldn't meet them because I was in Belgrade at this point.
Okay.
So I couldn't fly back to London. So I didn't have that. And Rebecca really stood out, her audition tape, for a number of reasons. One was because she has a kind of a presence on screen. Even on a tape, she had this presence, and it really drew me in, and I leaned into her. But also because she did the accent in a Northeast England accent, which I hadn't heard. In my head, it was always sort of Yorkshire or Lancashire.
Right.
And it really, it made complete sense. And I thought, yes, because, it's a complete juxtaposition of who she is, because the Northeastern accent is so friendly and warm. And, everyone I know from that side of the country is delightful. I thought, brilliant. It's great. She's going to be like this. So that was one thing. And then she didn't have long to we had very little rehearsal, and she was out, and we had maybe 2 weeks beforehand. And she was costume fitting, all these kind of things. But we did speak a lot, and we talked a lot, about the time that happened from when this trauma in her life to where she was now. So we filled in those gaps. And I think with Rebecca, she just has this kind of enigmatic quality naturally, and that beautifully transposes itself onto film. And there would just be moments when I first saw her on camera, which was the first day in the park, which was actually at the end of the film, but it was filmed on the first day.
Okay.
And she was in her, little black shoes, which were sort of like little DM black shoes, and her outfit, and her hair with the sort of very blunt fringe. I got a real chill down my spine, because she was CYBIL. She was exactly what I expected her to be, and more. And the way she came across, the way she acted, she was so real, and she was so unaware of her of her ability, I think, and she wasn't fazed by anything, which is great, because a lot of actors, she was doing some pretty terrible things.
Indeed.
And it all came from absolute truth with Rebecca. And yeah, she just has that, she had a quality. I didn't have to do a huge amount, because she had such an amazing quality that it was brilliant to play with. And, sometimes I'd say, try it this way or try it that way. And we'd come up with something, and I can't remember exactly now, but I don't think there was one moment when I thought, she's not really got it. She's not hit that at all. All the time she was there. And I think one of my favorite scenes in the film was right at the end. I mean, there's many, because I can't take my eyes off her when she's on screen. But my favorite scene was between her and Mr. Thomas, right at the end, when she comes to say goodbye to him.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way they both played it, they both were absolutely true to themselves. I mean, she could have picked up on his energy, he could have picked up his, but they were absolutely truthful to themselves. And it was just electric watching it through the monitor, watching them too. I mean, James Fleet is James Fleet. He's just, he's a legend. And he does very little. And yet there is so much going on. And it's the same with Rebecca. She's doing very little, but it's all there. It's all there. It really draws you in. So, yeah, it was those minutes. When I watch that on screen, that scene, I do have that tingly moment. I get that spine.
Fantastic. Now, Igor Marovich, is that how I pronounce it? Is your cinematographer?
Yeah. Igor Marovich, yes.
Marovich. What discussions did you two have in terms of the look and feel of Broken Bird? And did you bring any particular, did you sort of list any particular influences, whether that be film or not film, in terms of what you wanted to get?
Yeah. So I had quite an extensive lookbook that I sent to Igor, and we talked at length about it. I told him, because he'd never been to England as well. So it was really important that he understood the landscape of where I live and where it was set.
Yeah.
And I told him to watch, stuff that is filmed in England, like, I don't know, some gritty northern drama, because I wanted it to be real, but at the same time, I wanted to have that magical quality that, something like Amelie has, for example.
Yeah.
Then it has the sort of the darkness of, like St. Maud I told him to watch St. Maud, and Del Toro's works as well. So we have that sort of the dark and light constantly working, but it was absolutely it absolutely had to be based in truth. So he was fantastic, as was the production designer. And, I would give them what my vision was, and they just really enhanced it. And we worked very, very closely together. I did have my shot list and my camera plans and Igor, and I said exactly what I wanted. But Igor, he's just such a talent. And he would go, right, okay, I said, he's a real poet, he's a real artist. And he very, very sensitive. And I really, for me, that was really important that I had an emotional DOP. I mean, he was technically brilliant, obviously, but he was so passionate. And, it wasn't loud or anything like that, but he was exactly what this film needed. So I was really, really lucky because I did meet a lot of people, and the HODs all had to be Serbian because of the tax credit and all of that sort of thing. It was quite, I was nervous about that because what happens if you don't see eye to eye, if you don't get on? But he was incredible. Yeah.
Now there's a great shot. I mean, there's many great shots, but there's a shot that stood out for me when I was watching it, where we see the detective's point of view towards. It's shot towards the end where what's real, what's not real, we're kind of invited into that world. Can you talk about creating that moment on camera or in camera or in post or whatever?
Yeah, it was really important for me, that moment. It was so important, but I didn't think it was going to turn out as good as it did, if I dare say so myself. And a lot of that is not down to me. It's down to the technical department. It's down to VFX. And it's Scott Anderson, who was to produce, one of the other producers, but he's, he won an Oscar for Babe or something, but he was in charge of all the VFX. And he was incredible. And I told Igor exactly what I wanted. I said, Emma opens the door, and it's this build up, this darkness, this danger. What is she going to find? And she opens this door, and it's like chocolate box, fairy tale, fairyland. But it's all the fantasy of CYBIL. It's her fantasy. It opens up so the audience can see her in her fantasy. It then starts skewing and going into her feet on glass and stuff like that. And then it's all on Steadicam. So what's he called? I can't remember the Steadicam operator. Bortek, I think his name was. Anyway, he comes. He does a circle. There's like a horseshoe, and then he comes right up to Emma. We have so this was all filmed in fantasy. So we're all in the fantasy land first. So the whole set is dressed beautifully one night. So it's all dressed one night, and then we do the whole sequence. It goes around in the horseshoe with the Steadicam, and it comes onto Emma. The people move out of the way, and there she is, and she's looking as if to say, "What the hell is this?" It then goes around Emma, and then there's a plate shot. So when it goes around Emma, on the other side of Emma, there's a wall, but like a pillar. Mm-hmm. So they use that as the plate shot. So they measured that and did all their technical things. And then we did the whole thing again, but the next night when they completely distressed the whole set. So then they basically knitted it together in post. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. I mean, I don't know how, I couldn't replicate it after you're telling me, but it makes sense.
Yeah. So then we had the pipes of fire.
No, it's just quite magical because, I mean, obviously when somebody's obviously deluded, it's in a novel, that's easy because you just start talking about it, what's in their head. Yeah. But in film, you need to play between reality and unreality, and it did it beautifully. So...
Yeah, I was really, really pleased with that shot. And when, because obviously it took a few times to get it in post, and they would send it to me. They were doing it in Serbia, and Scott was in LA. So he was sort of overseeing everything. And when they showed it to me on the final time, I was just, again, a tingle moment. I couldn't believe it because it was exactly how I'd imagined it. So all kudos to them, really, because they did that. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm sure we've barely touched the surface of the stories you could tell us about making this film, but we've come to the end of this portion of the podcast. So thank you very much for sharing all that.
Thank you.
And we will now move on to 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Right then, for the 3 films, The rules are simple for those that are tuning in for the first time. Joanna's given me 3 films that have impacted on her life as a filmmaker and as a film viewer. We're going to talk about those, and after 5 minutes, we'll hear this sound, which I'm assured Joanne can hear perfectly well.
Yeah.
Absolutely deafening in my ear when it went through the microphone, I can tell you. So, without further ado, and with the clock ticking, your first choice is arguably the most watched film in film history, largely due to the fact that it's been, I mean, we'd have grown up with it on TV so many times. It's been on every format, which has enabled, obviously, many generations to watch it. MGM paid $75,000 for the rights to this book, which is close to $2 million today for the book rights. That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, the iconic ruby slippers, which I think will give people a clue now, are in the Smithsonian Institution National Museum of American History and are so popular that they've replaced that carpet numerous times because of wear and tear in front of them.
Wow.
I'm indeed talking about 1939's Wizard of Oz. Tell me, Joanne, why does that film, or how does that film have impact on you and your life?
Well, I suppose, I mean, aside from being an incredibly brilliant structure of storytelling and amazing characters, I suppose it crosses all the genres for one thing.
Yeah.
And as a child growing up, it was one of the first movies that I really remember watching. And I know that's many people are the same with that.
Yeah.
And when I watched this film as a child with it was with my mum. It was my mum's favourite film when she was a child, because her dad used to take her to see it. Well, he took her to see it at the cinema. So there's a kind of sort of nostalgic connection with that. And every year it would come on at Christmas. It would either be Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And when I was younger, there weren't such a thing as that. We didn't even have a VHS video recorder. You know, we didn't have any of that. So when you watched a film, you were looking forward and excited about watching a film. You plugged into that film. You didn't have breaks. You couldn't stop it. You couldn't go check your phone. You were absolutely engrossed and enthralled in that film. And I'm really grateful for that, because I don't think kids have that today. And I suppose that's why it's made such an indelible impression in me for such a long time, because I watched it every single year. And then when you could record it, when we got our VHS video recorder, I used to record it. And then you could rewind it and look at it and all that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of years for a film. So, I love the themes in this movie. I loved the themes of courage, of each character personified something that was interesting. You've got courage. You've got the scarecrow wanting a brain, the Tin Man, a heart, and it was just so important to me. I was just enthralled at life's journey and how these almost cartoon characters could have such a profound impact, a magical but profound impact. And I love the way that light and dark, good and evil played with each other all the way through, visually, and also, the characters and for what they represented. And I felt that, the story for me, especially as a child, it kept me on the edge of my seat all the way through. As I said before, it is structurally brilliant. The themes are timeless, relevant today. And I just remember being taken as a child on a really colourful journey of emotions. And I think that I don't think a film has ever done that for me at such a young age, and managed to sustain that to where I am now. All those years ago, it was 1939 it first got released. 1939 and again got re-released. So we're nearly, what's that? You said 80 years.
Yeah.
Is it 80?
Well, between your 3 films, we're actually further away from your middle film to the one that's more present than we are going backwards from your middle film to 1939, which really freaked me out, because when I look at those years, I thought, that's ages ago.
There you go. Yeah, it's all different stages in one's life.
It's lean as hell, given that obviously it's Dorothy's story, but we still managed to get 3 other characters introduced along the way who get full story arcs. Oh.
Yes. Yes, they do. And I think, yeah. I think it's, and I think that's what's so clever about the storytelling is that it's all so clear. And there is that, because it crosses the genres of comedy, drama, thriller, horror, even sci-fi, I suppose, with the house spinning on a tornado. It's just, for a child, for anyone, it's stunning.
And thinking of the horror, it is actually bloody scary as when you're a kid.
It is.
Which it's, even watching it as an adult, you can go, yeah, that doesn't pull any punches, yet it's just considered a universal film.
Yeah, it was nightmarish. I found those monkeys, those flying monkeys, were the most terrifying thing. Even, obviously the Wicked Witch was terrifying, but the monkeys and even the trees, when she took an apple off the tree and it came alive and it smacked her and threw it at her, it was like, oh my God, but it was also, it felt so real. And I think that was because it was so well constructed and well-rounded, the stories, the character, everything. It's brilliant.
Right then. For your second choice, Joanne, this is the highest grossing movie Warner Brothers have ever released, adjusted for inflation. Upon its release in the USA, the film affected many audiences so strongly that theatres had paramedics on hand. When it was originally released in the UK, a number of councils imposed a complete ban. This led to a bizarre spectacle of bus trips where enterprising travel companies took wannabe fans of this film to other towns to see the film. Such was the demand for it. The original teaser trailer, which I never knew this, consisted of nothing but images of the white-faced demon quickly flashing in and out of the darkness. And that ended up getting banned from theatres as it was too frightening. The young star of this film got death threats after the release because it was believed she was glorifying Satan, which meant that Warner Brothers ended up hiring bodyguards to protect her for 6 months. I'm indeed talking about William Friedkin's The Exorcist. To tell me, where do you first see this film and why does it have such an impact on you?
Yeah, this is, again, storytelling at its best. I never saw it. Well, okay. So I saw this film when I was, must have been 12, 13, around that time, mid-80s, I guess.
Good age to terrify yourself.
Sorry?
A good age to terrify yourself.
Absolutely. I was terrified enough as it was. So, throw this at me. And a friend of mine, there's a group of us, small group of us, and it was during the day, and she'd managed to get hold of this VHS copy of The Exorcist. And we were like, really excited, we're going to watch it. And terrified at the same time. Again, watched it all the way through. The curtains were still open. We were that scared. We weren't going to close the curtains and watch it. And it was interesting because at that time of my life, as you just mentioned, there's a lot of change going on from sort of being a girl to an adolescent. And I was really awkward and disobedient and, not happy in my own skin and slightly rebellious, all those kind of things. And I think I kind of, it's sort of, I suppose Regan's character, I wasn't that, maybe a year older than her. I think she was supposed to be 12 in it. And so maybe I was like a year older than her. And I felt that I kind of related to her in a weird way, maybe because we were the same age. And I found that theme interesting with her mother, that, they had this really great relationship and there's this sort of metaphor of her trying to get away from her mother. Anyway, I kind of more or less realized most of this later on, because at the time I was so drawn into this film and so terrified, and it affected me. And I probably didn't sleep properly for like 10 years. And I know I'm not alone in that. So fast forward a few more years, and Dom, my partner, came back and he said, "Oh, I've got a Blu-ray DVD of The Exorcist." And I was like, "Oh, no, do not bring that into the house." And he said, "No, it's really, you've got to watch it, Joe. It's filmmaking. We've made films. It's all this, that, and the other." I said, and then he put it in the bedroom. I said, "You need to take it out of the bedroom and you need to hide it somewhere so I can't see it." Anyway, so he did. And he still reminds me of this. Anyway, forward another couple of years, and a few more films later that I've made with him, and we watch it, and I realised just what an exceptional piece of filmmaking it really, really was, and how real the characters are, how it's all based in truth, and I know that Friedkin never saw it as a horror movie because he found it's more of a drama, and it was about you're questioning your faith and the good versus evil, light, dark. And I can really see that. I can see how, and the reason why it is so terrifying is because it's so real. And he has these setups, these scenes with these characters and what they're talking about and their reality. And then it goes from sort of 0 to 60 into Regan's bedroom. And the shock and the horror is suddenly there. And then they close the door and they're back trying to work this thing out. So I just thought it was fascinating, even from, the start of the film, and it's got that sort of documentary feel when he's in Iraq and the father is finding the bishop he's found a amulet or some sort of
that's right.
evil ornament, which then coincides brilliantly with Regan, who has opened that her vessel, because she's... Oh, no!
Finish your thought. Finish your thought.
Because she started doing the Ouija board. So it's just so well intertwined and constructed. And I loved it. And I loved how Friedkin was such a passionate filmmaker. I mean, at the detriment to his cast. I know that. I know there was... stuff that went on. But I even just one thing that really spoke to me, and I just thought it was a brilliant way of getting through exposition when the priest and the detective they had to talk about stuff that was going on, and the camera's tracking them and they're discussing stuff. But they could have been in a bar, they could have been in the church, they could have been in a coffee shop, but in the background there's people playing tennis. And it was just I just thought, that's such a great juxtaposition. It's just, it was, I thought he was genius.
I was reading some comments about firing guns by actors' ears to make them surprised. Although I did find it funny that Max von Sydow forgot his lines after the first take of Regan's foul-mouthed tirade. He was so shocked by it that he forgot his lines.
It was brilliant. But that's it. I think even the characters themselves, the actors, were so involved in the filmmaking. It was all in camera as well, wasn't it? I mean, there was no CGI or anything like that we have today. Everything had to be in camera, and it took 15 months to film it.
Remarkable.
You kind of go, where that doesn't happen? Of course, it doesn't happen anymore. But even the room of Regan's, it was a proper fridge. It was a refrigerator. And, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. A lot of the stuff and the stunts that they were doing, it was insane.
Indeed. So like I've already said, so Wizard of Oz is 39. We jumped to 73, which is 34 years by my maths. We're now going to jump 41 years on from The Exorcist, which obviously was just yesterday in reality, but clearly not. And for your third choice, this is love. This is I do, these happy accidents I love. William Friedkin said that this film, I've never seen a more terrifying film. So what a lovely link up there with your second and your third choice.
What a great segue. I didn't know that.
Nor did I. And in Hebrew, the title of this film means he is coming for sure.
Oh my God!
Isn't that terrifying?
I got shivers.
Several female critics were offended by the portrayal of the mother, stating that no mother would ever mistreat her son like that. However, the director said that she was approached by many women who admitted that being a mother was hard, and sometimes negative thoughts about mistreating your child that you never act upon, but still they exist in your head. And they were grateful for her addressing that taboo. I'm talking about Jennifer Kent's The Babadook from 2014. So do you want to tell us where you see that, why this film has impact on you?
Yeah, I mean, this movie really landed with me. aside from it being, again, another wonderful story in a horror movie, it touched me on so many levels at a time when I was really struggling because I was a new mum and I had a child that didn't sleep, which consequently meant that I didn't sleep. And, I couldn't even put him down. I couldn't do anything. He was just attached to me. So it was, he was a gorgeous child, and I didn't suffer what she had to suffer, obviously, tragedy she had to go through, but I could really relate to the emotions and the darkness that she was experiencing. The world, it was like an isolation of oneself when you think everybody else is coping brilliantly. And we all do this at some point in our lives with varying different situations. We think, oh, I'm the only one who feels like this and everyone else is doing brilliantly. And I was so grateful for this movie because I felt like, yes, I'm not the only one. And I'm able to watch this, pan out at the cinema. And I don't need someone to tell me. I'm just watching it. And of course, it's a film and it's a horror film and it's, like a fairy tale, a very dark fairy tale. But, the actual, the message was very, very clear to me. And I love the fact that, since that tragedy of losing her husband when her son was born, she had to cope all the time. She had to cope with this child who was, I don't know, it was neurodiverse or whatever, but didn't matter. She had to cope on her own and she didn't have anybody else. So what happens then is it was quite clear to me that she was suppressing everything. She was suppressing all this darkness, all this fear. And it was, this mess inside her until it could be suppressed no longer. And this book was kind of like a sort of a conduit to open up that's for me, it was like this nasty stuff within her that she had to let it go, and she had to sort of really let it go before she could recover. And so the Babadook was kind of this fairy tale monster, but it was kind of her, it was part of her. And from the book. And so I kind of really related to it. I loved the way I know some people who found it quite depressing, but for me, it wasn't depressing. I thought it was really scary. I thought it was genuinely moving, and it was very real. I could relate to all those things, and that's what horror is. It's the reality. As Regan, so it's really interesting that he said that because his movie is based in absolute truth, and so is this one, even though she uses the allegory and metaphor. And I love the color palette. I love the kind of the sort of washed out colors of the pinks and the blues and the sort of, so it sort of mirrored her, this kind of dreamlike, trance-like state for me. And she was pale, she wasn't well, and then in the house it was quite dark. And it's again light and dark.
Did you know that the set was built entirely? So it was a 2-story set. So even though it was all self-contained as a whole house, more or less the whole house. So those movements between rooms is movement between a set. And Jennifer said that all she had to be careful of was not shooting by what would be the window, because I'll finish my own thought. Not being shot near a window because that's the only thing that wasn't real, but you had the real flow of a house built into the set, so you could have the up and down between, which obviously was the madness of the routine of what was going on, between the kitchen, between the bedroom, and obviously what's in the cellar. Now, I have to ask, because Jennifer won't tell us, so we can decide for ourselves, because she it's up to us, the audience. Is the Babadook real, or is the Babadook just the metaphor?
Right. Okay. So this is my theory.
Of course. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Babadook is part of her, and I love that at the end when her and her son are sat really, everything's perfect, seemingly perfect, and then he's picking worms and putting them into a little bowl, and then she takes them, and then she goes down into the basement and she puts it down, and off it shoots off into the darkness because she's obviously feeding it. And I felt like oh no, this is because grief never goes away. Grief is always there. We just have to look after it, and nurture it, and face it. So for me, that was the metaphor. So it wasn't real as a monster is real, physically real, but it was real in her head and it was real inside her. So she has to really look after herself so that he doesn't, or it doesn't, whatever that it is, doesn't overtake her again. She has to, I think that's how I saw it.
And also, did you know that it was also based on a short film? She did a short film in 2005 called Monster, which was the...
Yes.
So yes, she expanded the story. She, like what you described, she says, it just wouldn't let her go. She made the short film and it wouldn't let her go. So it's interesting how an idea can grow without you even necessarily thinking it would in the first place. But if you can't let it go, you have to then explore it.
Yeah, I just thought it was so beautifully done, and the fact that it was just her and this little boy. I mean, she was fabulous, obviously, but this little boy, he was just the cutest, such a great actor, and I believed everything. She just cast it perfectly. Everything was cast. Everything was, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, apparently, she cast a load of 8 and 9-year-olds that were too kind of knowing and aware they were acting, that then didn't give her the sense that she wanted from the child, from Samuel. And so she ended up casting a 6-year-old, which obviously brings its other own challenges, but that got her that more natural performance that we get to enjoy as a film. Yeah.
And what a performance. He was just fantastic. Yeah. And they worked so well together. So, all kudos to Jennifer Kent.
Indeed.
She just...
Well, look, thank you very much for sharing those stories about 3 films that impacted everything in your adult life. I much appreciate that. And thank you for sharing some of the stories behind making Broken Bird. And it just gives me to say thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hey there, Hugh from Boderation here. If you like today's show, then why not have a listen to Why We Roll, the dedicated TTRPG design podcast. It's hosted by Wythe and Chris, 2 professional TTRPG designers, and it's all about talking to the people that make our favourite games in the tabletop world and understanding what goes into that decision-making process, how you build something that's not just fun to play, but fun to experience, and we're not talking about how we roll, but learning why exactly we make those decisions. Check it out on our website at poderation.com.